questions from Jacob, and it's a multi-time frame question. So he's wanting to look at a condition from a 10-2 Renko chart. So he wants to see when price crosses the 50 EMA. He wants to see, when is price above or below the 50 EMA here. But he wants to see that, above or below. He wants to see that over here on a 5-1 chart. So he wants to see that over here on a 5-1 chart. So that'll be the first question. So this will be a pretty simple one here. So just to kind of illustrate here, I'll build the condition real quick on the 10-2 Renko chart. So let's see, we're gonna look for the comparison solver here. All right. So and yeah, I'm just gonna set this up. Normally I would put a name in here, but I'm just going to set this up just to give us a visual reference. And then over on our 5-1 chart, I'll set everything up properly here. So just so we have a reference. Okay, so what we're doing is we're comparing price to the 50 EMA. So I'm going to jump down here to the EMA, add that on here, change my period to the 50 EMA. Right, so there we go. So we have in input A, we're looking at price. We're just checking to see if the closing price of the bar is above or below. And then input B is going to be our EMA, our 50 period EMA. And so this is just going to be a temporary thing. So now you can see when price crosses below that EMA, we get a short output. And then when price is above, we get a long output, right? And so we want to see this condition, this output over here on the faster time frame, on the 5-1 Renko chart, right? So these Renko bars move a lot faster, right? It's the lower time frame or the faster time frame there. All right, so let's go ahead and open up BloodHound and do this the proper way here. So, all right, so the first thing I'm going to do is let's set up today's date. And, all right, so it's this 12/2. All right, so there's today's training workshop file. We'll save that. All right, we're good to go. All right, so the first thing we need to do, right, is this chart is, it's a higher time frame. So we need to set this higher time frame chart up in BloodHound. So you can see right here, there's a chart button. So we're going to use this chart button, and it's going to add a chart or add a time frame there. All right, so then we'll select it, and then come over here and change the chart properties or change the time frame here. So I'm using the Pro Renko to do this. Of course, you could use the Uno Renko or whatever Renko bar you have, right? Just select whatever Renko bar you're using. So in this case, I'm using the Pro Renko. And of course, we need to set up the chart time frame. So remember, it's a 10-2. So this chart over here is a 10-2. So I'm just matching the settings. And so there we go. I've got my higher time frame chart set up, and now I need to add a solver to it. So let's grab a comparison solver. All right, so basically I'm going to set this comparison solver up the same way I set it up on the other chart here. So I'm going to cover that up for a moment. So if you notice on the 5-1 chart here, it says press F5 to update BloodHound. So whenever you add a time frame to BloodHound, we have to get NinjaTrader to build this data for us, right? So the only way to get Ninja to build that data is we will need to refresh the chart here. So we're going to do an F5 or reload the Ninja script there. And that gets NinjaTrader to build our 10-2 chart data for us for BloodHound. Okay, so now we'll open BloodHound back up again. There we go. Open it back up. And now we can go back to the comparison solver here. So let's give this a name here. So this is price above or below what is it again? It's the EMA 50, and it's a comparison solver. So, all right, so we're just going to set this solver up exactly the same as I did earlier. So input A is going to be price, and input B is going to be our 50 EMA. All right, there's our EMA. Change our period to 50. All right, we don't have to worry about selecting any plots because the EMA only has one plot, so it's already selected for us. And there we go. We can see the output right here. So let me close BloodHound, and let's change our charts to go to global crosshairs now. Here we go. And there we go. So you'll notice that the global crosshairs don't sync perfectly, but you can kind of see it gets right. The global crosshairs get you in the ballpark here. So let's see. Let's take a look at the time that this bar closes here. Let's stretch this out. So this bar closed at 8:53 and 24 seconds. So 53 and 24 seconds. And so if we go over here, there we are. We're at 53 and 24 seconds. And then that's when it switches from a short condition to a long condition there. So yeah, so even though you can see on the 10-2 chart, on the chart on the left, you can see my crosshair, right? It's on that up bar, which is green on the other chart, but when you look at the times, you can see the times do match up correctly there. Anyways, there we go. That's it. So let's scroll down over here. So here's another situation over here where on the 10-2 chart, right, there was 2 bars underneath that EMA 50, and that lasted for about 10 bars on the 5-1 chart. Right, it lasts about 5 bars on the 5-1 chart. Anyways, that's it. Pretty simple to do that one there. So let me just I'm just gonna finish kind of cleaning this up here, right? So just took that one solver. So I'm gonna put this solver on a logic in a logic template now. So I'll click on the logic tab, and I'm gonna make a new logic template here. So just give this a name here. All right, so we got price versus the EMA 50 on a higher time frame there. So now I just need to get that comparison solver on the board, so I can go to solver nodes, and that's an existing node. And here's the time frame. Right, here's that 10-2 chart, and there is that comparison, that comparison solver I just made. So I'll click on it, and then you can see it drops it on the board. And if you look at the top of the solver there, you can see it has the time frame, or it has the chart time frame that this solver is on. Right, so that title up on top helps tell you which chart time frame this solver is actually working on there. And I can just connect it up there. So, all right, so that's kind of handy versus, if I'm making solvers on just the default time frame. So you'll see solvers that are running on the default time frame don't have the chart time frame on them, because this is running on the default time frame. So, right, and the default time frame would be the 5-1 chart. It'd be the chart that BloodHound is running on, right? So we just get rid of this, and if we take a look at the solver tab, right? So here's that comparison solver, and it's running on the 10-2 Renko, and then there's that bar direction solver I just made, and we can see it's running on the default time frame there. So there you go. So just a brief little explanation of the time frame label up on top of this solver here. So, all right, well, that pretty much does it for this question. So I'm going to delete that bar direction solver. Don't need it. All right. I think I understand your question here, Vlad. So let's see. Let's put together a couple of solvers. Let's see. All right, I'm just going to put together a couple of solvers here just to get something to work with. Let's see. All right, so Vlad's question focuses on the AND node. And, this doesn't come up a lot, but you notice these AND nodes have sliders. So you can use fuzzy logic with that. And let's see. All right, now since we're using fuzzy logic, I need to build something that's easier to comprehend. So just a moment here. All right, so I'm going to use the stochastics indicator to kind of build a fuzzy logic output here, and this will become apparent here in just a moment. All right, so I'm going to make a new solver here, and I'm going to do a threshold solver. All right, let's give this a name. All right, so let me load the stochastics indicator in here, and I'm just using the default 714 settings. And yeah, we're going to look at D. And let me set up some thresholds here. There. Actually, let me do, I'm just going to go from 100 to 0. Yeah. All right, going from 100 to 0, if I look at BloodHound's output, it gives us a little more a finer movement on the fuzzy logic part. Yeah, so let's change the name on the solver here. There we go. So, all right, so we're basically detecting when, you know, how close is the, what we're looking at here is how close is the stochastic getting to 100, or how close is the stochastics getting to 0, right? So the closer the stochastics gets to 100, then we're getting 100% confidence. And the closer the stochastics gets to 0, then we're getting 100% confidence for a short signal, right? So the closer that the stochastics gets to 100, right, the more of a long signal we'll get. When the stochastics gets down towards 0, then we'll get more of a short signal. So as we can see here, right? Right, so okay, so this provides us some fuzzy logic, and then we have a simple bar direction solver here. So this kind of sets up a similar situation that Vlad has. So he's got two solvers going, yeah, so he's got two connections into an AND node here. And what he wants is, let's see here, okay, yeah, so I think, Vlad, what you're getting at is when one of the solvers, and I'm gonna use the threshold solver here with the stochastics. So when this solver gets to 65, then that you want 0.65 to be considered as a signal. I believe that's what you're getting at. So let's put that at .65 and all right. So I'm just going to put 2 on here. All right, so I've got a little dash white line so we can see when our solver here is outputting, when the short or the long is outputting at 0.65. And so I believe when one of the solvers, that's connected to the AND node, when it gets to 0.65, that is good enough for a trade signal, right? Now, BloodHound's default settings is 0.8, right? So hopefully you can see, actually, let's just stretch this open here. Here we go. So we can see right here, you see this green line? That's at 0.8. And you can see when the output gets to 0.8 or 80%, then BloodHound will give a signal at 80%. That's the default settings. Now, of course, you can change these settings to fit whatever you want. And also down here on the short side, when the short side gets down to negative 0.8 or negative 80%, then that is good enough for a short signal here, and so you get the racing stripes. But what Vlad is interested in is he's saying that, I think Vlad's asking that when one of his solvers gets to 0.65, where the dash line is, that's actually good enough for a trade signal. But we do have another solver here that I'm assuming needs to get to 0.8. But this solver can only needs to get to 65%. All right, so one solver is good enough for a signal at 80%, but the other solver is good enough at 65%. And so the way we can do that is we can use the sliders here. We can use the sliders to increase the, to increase, basically we just need to increase the output of this solver here. So let's do this. So if we're just looking at this solver, let's find a couple of bars here. Here we go. Perfect. So you can see we've got a couple of bars that exceed 65%. All right, let's stretch this out here. So here we go. We got a couple of bars that exceed 65%. And so we want to increase the output of this solver so that these 3 bars, let's make sure it's just the 3 bars there, so that we get a racing stripe on these 3 bars. So you'll notice that I have this solver selected and I have a slider up top here. Well, I don't want to use the slider because the slider goes from 1 down to 0. Right? So that's going to actually reduce the output. That's going to shrink the output. I want to use this this other input here. See, it says 1.0. I want to use this one, and that will increase the output. And let's see, I just clicked it once, so 1.1. Yeah, 1.1 appeared to do it. I think that did it. Let me reset it here. I'm going to set it back to 1 even, 1.0. And what I need to do is actually mark, I need to mark some more points just to make sure. So let's mark some more points here. So, all right, this one here should do it. You see right here the flag says 0.652. So this output here, this this green long output, it is past 0.65. It's 0.652. So we should get a racing stripe on that one as well. Let's check some of these others. All right, definitely that one, definitely that one. Yep, definitely that one. Let's see, nope, not that one. That one's 0.64, so just barely didn't qualify. All right, well, I think I've found enough here to experiment with. So I guess the one I'm really key on focusing on is this guy here, because remember this one was just barely over 0.65. So let's go back to the solver and let's inch that up again. And oops. Hold on a moment. Let me take myself out of this drawing mode. There we go. So I can see there's no racing stripe on this bar. So 0.1 wasn't quite enough. Let's go up to 0.2, and that's not quite enough either. Let's try 0.25. So I'm going to actually type in 0.25. There we go. 0.25, that was enough. That might be a little too much. Let's try 2.3. And hold on a sec, let me zero this out. Okay. And so basically it's just a matter of going in here and kind of finding out exactly what setting is needed. So I put in 0.23 and I'm still getting a racing stripe on that one bar that was really close to 0.65. Right, so there you go. So you just need to adjust this multiplier, right? So the upper one's a multiplier, the lower slider is more of a division, right? So the slider will reduce the output, the multiplier up here will increase the output. So there you go, Vlad, that's what you need there. And so if we look at the AND node, right, here's my stochastic solver, the one connected down here. And you can see, right, I have the same slider and multiplier right here. So I can just go in here and adjust that for the input into my AND node. All right, so you can see we're looking at the AND node, and then these are the connected nodes right there. So there's the bar direction node that's connected to the AND the threshold solver that's connected to the AND. All right, so I think that answers it. Let me just take a look at the board, see if there's any comments on this or further questions. Let's see. Vlad is asking if we could do it by using another AND node between the stochastic and the AND node. Yeah, you could, sure. I mean, if you want to, I don't think that doesn't really help any, doesn't really accomplish anything. However, I would probably use an OR node. So if you're wanting to just stick another logic node in between, you know, I'd probably just use an OR node. Let's see, yeah, so we could do this. So let me reset this back to 1.0, like so. So let's just take a look. All right, yeah, everything looks like it's back to normal now. Yeah. And then I could take this OR node, well, or, again, I could go to the OR node and I can increase my multiplier, or I could go back to my AND node. And so right here is my OR node, and I can take the multiplier from the OR node and put 0.23 in there as well. Yeah, so there you go. You could do it that way. You could stick a logic node, you know, AND node, OR node, you know, they both work as long as you only have one connection, you know, into this extra logic node. So yeah, but you know, this extra logic node really I don't think is necessary. It's not necessary unless you're connecting this somewhere else. You know, if this is connecting somewhere else in your system, so you know, if you're using the same solver somewhere else in your system, then I guess it makes sense to have this extra logic node in here. All right, so Pathral1's asking, why would you want to increase the output from a particular solver like we're doing. Well, it's just when you're using fuzzy logic, like this, right? So we're using fuzzy logic here, and I can't think of any exact reason, but sometimes you just need one of your components. So I mean, this is very oversimplified, but typically you're going to have other solvers in here looking at other indicators, looking at those other indicators in a fuzzy logic manner. So just imagine more of these solvers here looking at other different indicators. And so sometimes I guess the underlying purpose is that some indicators you might want to give more weight to them. So let's say if I had another solver looking at the MACD and another solver looking at the CCI, I might say, well, I want the stochastic to have more weight, more weighting in my system. In other words, the stochastic indicator I'm thinking is more important. It has more importance than the other indicators. And so if you decide that one of your indicators has more importance, then you can increase its output, and you can increase the output from the solver, so that way when this indicator can help fire off a signal sooner because it has more importance. I guess, yeah, that's really the core reason behind having these sliders, is that you might decide that one of your indicators has a lot more importance, has a lot more weighting factor in your system than the other indicators, and so you can increase the output. So, or on the opposite side, you could say, well, this indicator has, this indicator has less importance. That's kind of the wrong way to phrase it. So you might have an indicator that's giving too strong of a signal. Right? You might have an indicator that's giving too many output. Might be giving too much of an output. So you might have an indicator that's firing off signals too soon. And so in that case, you could use the slider to tone down the output. Right? So if you notice, if I take this slider and put it down to 0.5, you see how my output gets diminished. So now I've just said, well, my stochastic has too much strength in the system, and so I'm going to turn the slider down and reduce its output, therefore making the stochastics less important. Right? So that's kind of what these do, is they make the solver or the indicator more important or less important when you're using a fuzzy logic kind of a system. So, but again, this only this only works when you're actually using BloodHound's fuzzy logic. So, but most people aren't using the fuzzy logic. They just, most people just like nice, clean, yes or no answers, So that's typically what you see in these workshops, is just you see solvers built with just simple, on or off kind of conditions, without, just eliminating the fuzzy logic component there. So, all right, so let's kind of clean that up, make that look pretty. There we go. And all right, yeah, so Pathralwin, Vlad said that, I guess, this solver, that when it gets to 0.65%, that's coming from a higher time frame. So he wants to give the higher time frame, solver more importance. So so I guess there's one actual practical use, So yeah, so if you have a solver that's looking at a higher time frame, you might want to give that solver more importance, more weighting, and so you can increase its multiplier. So all right, yeah, I don't see any more questions coming in, guys, so I'll wrap it up here. So hey, guys, have a great weekend. Yep, relax. The holidays are here, time to relax. So, and stay warm, drink extra coffee, extra hot chocolate. Stay warm out there for sure. And of course, if you guys have questions, you're always welcome to email your questions in ahead of time, and just ask us to save it for next week's workshop. And also keep in mind, there are no workshops when they're right next to the holidays. So there are no workshops the Thursday and Friday just prior to Christmas, and the Thursday and Friday just prior to New Year's. There's no workshops those two on those 2 weeks. So I think we only have 2 workshops left in this month. Yeah, I think we only have 2 more left in this month. So, and then and then the workshops will start up next year. So, all right, guys, have a good one, and I hope to see you next week. All right, bye-bye, guys.